Mr. Chairman, we're ready to begin.
Okay, thanks very much. And looks like we've got a quorum.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you. I now call to order the January 12th, 2021 meeting of the Sugar Land Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Item 2, public comment. Citizens who desire to address the commission with regard to matters on the agenda will be read and or received at this time. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
No, sir, we don't.
All right, I will close public comment and we'll move on to item 4, consideration and action of the minutes of the December 8, 2020 meeting. Those have been distributed in advance. Does anyone have any revisions to the minutes?
Motion to approve. This Taylor.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Landine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Watley. Doesn't appear that there's any other discussion, so if you...
Hold on, I do have a question. It's your name is on the minutes to be signator, whereas I chaired it, so I wondered if that needed to be changed.
Yeah, you would
put my name for you.
Correct.
I'm just curious.
Yes, sir. You would just put your name.
Okay,
You would sign your signature.
thank you.
Okay, subject to that revision. Any other discussion? All right, if you'll vote at this time. All right, and it passes unanimously of those members present. Item 5, subdivision plat. A, consideration and action on Greatwood Lake Section 2B final plat. Lauren, take it away.
All right, thank you. Next slide, please. All right, so we're back in Greatwood Lake this evening. This is the final plat. We had the preliminary plat that was approved with conditions by the commission back in September. This is for a little over 13 acres out in the ETJ. South of Greatwood. It's 52 lots, 3 reserves, and 3 blocks. Access to the subdivision is from Magnolia Trail Lane, and it is adjacent to the Greatwood Lake Recreation Center as well. Next slide, please. So the 2B is shown circled in red here as part of the overall section 2 on the general land plan for Greatwood Lake. This is the most recent amendment that was done about 5 or so years ago for the overall development. Next slide, please. And the preliminary plat, as I mentioned, the commission reviewed the plat back in September, approved it with 3 conditions that were related to the abbreviation and legend table, and those have been addressed on this final plat. Next slide, please. And this is the final plat before you this evening. Again, 52 lots, proposed access off Magnolia Trail Lane. You can see the Greatwood Lake Reserve B, that's the recreation center that these homes are also adjacent to. Next slide, please. So just real quick, we want to pop this up as a reminder on the legislation from 2019 for the 3 options for the commission to review plats, approve with conditions, or disapprove with explanation. Citing the code requirements for those conditions of approval or disapproval. And again, staff were here to assist as we did last time with citing some of those code reasons for the approval conditions. And next slide, please. And with that, staff would recommend approval of the proposed Greatwood Lake Section 2B final plat. We did have a condition of approval that was brought up by Commissioner Canine, who was unable to be here this evening. So per the Dev Code, Chapter 5, Section 510A2 and 517, L19 was actually not shown on the line table. It is on the plat face, but it was missing from the line table. So we'll have that as a condition of approval this evening. And that's all I have. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Let's try to go down the line and see if anyone has any other questions or comments. Commissioner Hart, anything from you?
Yeah, can you just clarify? It looked like there was some possible arc lengths that were incorrect on some of the curves. C28 was one of them, C10 and C23. Can they just check those?
Could you list those out one more time?
C28,
Uh-huh.
it lists one segment of the arc, which says 60.36.
Okay.
And that's the middle segment, but it kind of stretches between C27 and C29, and there's a lot of dimensions on there that weren't added into the arc length.
Okay.
C10 and C23, they were minor, by 0.01 feet. And there's I guess a dot missing between C16 and C3 and L9. There's a junction there that, there's a dot at every other end of every other segment. That's not really critical, but it's not there.
Okay. I'm trying to follow with you on the plat here.
Okay.
I see.
Could you help us in locating?
Sure. Okay. So C28 is at the north end of Millstone Trail Lane. It's right next to Reserve C. The dimension there says 60.36, which is what shows up in the table. But unless I'm looking at it wrong, C28 stretches from C27 all the way around to C29. And so all the other dimensions aren't taken into that arc length.
Okay.
And then if you go south at the end, C33, let me make sure that one was right. That one does the same thing. It only takes the dimension off the lot 22 and
Right.
not the 30.2 and the 44.91.
What were the others?
Well, those were the dimensions. The other two were C10. When you add them up, it came up to 116.68. And I only started checking that because I found those other two that were.
Right.
And then.
Because I went through and I found some things too. I just want to make sure.
Oh, okay. And C23 was 134.18.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the point at the intersection of C16, C3, and L9 on the cul-de-sac of the Milestone Trail Lane east end.
Say that again, the intersection of
C2, C3, and L9?
C3, C16, and L9.
what lot is that?
It's right where the cul-de-sac is adjacent to section 1.
Yeah, that's not critical. It's
Far
just
east.
if they're just correcting things, they can just throw that terminus on there or dot.
Okay. I can't find that. Okay, thanks.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Tim. Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, good evening. I have just one question. Sanitary sewer easements, I've noticed are not associated with the file number. Are they to be associated with the file number, or are they just reserved by plat?
If they're in the plat boundary, they're done via plat. Yes.
All right.
During this process. Yeah, that's correct.
Well, Commissioner Hart caught what I caught, so I'll move on next. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Watley?
Thank you. I was not at the meeting, so I assumed that most of the issues were covered except for the ones you're bringing up. The only thing that I saw is, and it's addressed in the next plat that we'll go over on the final, but there's IP versus IR. IP is not addressed in the legend, and I know it stands for iron pole. Do we need to add that to the legend or abbreviations? There's 3 instances where it's addressed, where it's a 1/2 inch IP with cap in 2 places and 3/4 inch IP at the top of the page.
Right, yes, I see that. Yep, that can be added to the legend as well.
If I'm not mistaken, that'll be iron pipe.
Yes, it's addressed in the next plat we have, so I assume it's iron pipe because we do have iron rod addressed in
Right.
the abbreviations. That's all I have.
Thank you, Suzanne. Commissioner Landine?
All good here, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, and Lauren, you received Commissioner K-9's comments, and we'll add that to his revision in any motion that it gets made. Dan, anything from you?
Yes, I do. Is anyone from Jones and Carter on the call?
Yes, they are.
Okay, good. First of all, on page 1, I don't know if this is effective or if it applies here, but in the center paragraph from the surveyor, third line, it says Texas Board of Professional Land Surveyors. That board is merged with the engineering board, and it's Texas Board of Professional Engineers and Land Surveyors. I don't know if that warrants being changed. And then in that same signature block, I would think that RPLS ought to appear after his name.
Okay.
That's all I have for sheet 1. Sheet 2, and I know I've asked this before, and I want to say that Lisa schooled me before, but bear with me. Is it protocol or required that from the point of beginning around the outer perimeter of the track that you proceed in a clockwise manner in the descriptions, or is that moot?
So it would be, well, you said you got an answer from Lisa? Did you answer that, Lisa, or did I?
At one time I brought this up, either that or it was just a question of does there have to be a point of beginning because that plat didn't have one.
Right, and the answer to that is yes. There
Yes.
that's a state law requirement that there has to be a point of beginning.
Okay. All right, well, let me make my point, and Doug, perhaps you can weigh in here. If we start at the point of beginning and we work our way clockwise, you can see the first bearing and distance. Those are correct. They're north and west. The first 2, north and west. Third one, as we turn the corner, north and east. That's correct. Fourth one, south and east. We're going clockwise. Now, as we come around to L1, it should say south and east. South 49, 20, 37 east. It says north and west. And I wonder if that matters. It's the same bearing, it's just looking the other way for those that are familiar. And if we carry that through, L1 through L9 need to be reversed, and L11 needs to be reversed. But if I'm obsessing, it doesn't matter.
So as part of the submittal requirements, we also receive a signed and sealed closure report
Right.
from the surveyor that should follow the boundaries, like you're saying, the lat lawn boundaries, as well as the meets and bounds description. I mean, we have a lot of descriptive documents that we check against the plat itself. So.
No, what's on the plat is correct.
Yeah.
It's in terms of I'm sure the tract closes, in other words.
Yeah.
You know, I have every confidence.
Yeah.
It's just back in, you know, before there was fire, when I used to do this as a tech, we had to go in one direction. And it just kind of breaks that approach, let's call it. Again, not a deal breaker.
Yeah, no, I follow you. I think that's the way we just kind of, as staff, look at it and check it, is versus what they've provided us on how they've sealed their closure report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it might matter, but I wasn't certain it would.
Well, certainly if it didn't match what we had submitted with, you know, we would question that. So I think it matters, you know.
Right. Okay, next I noticed too that the L19 was missing. And on L26, I wasn't able to locate L26, except in the knuckle on Willow Forest and Wood. See it there on the center line? Okay, it's a line segment, but yet it's pointing along the arc of a curve. So I would think, even though it's only 1.29 feet, we try to represent that line segment, although it may be too small at this scale. But that approach doesn't reconcile with the bearing that's shown, the north 16, 24, 57 west. That's why I was wondering if is there a line 26 that's not shown? Perhaps it, over in the cul-de-sac in the lower right-hand side, you see the L14. Perhaps it needs to be like that, kind of coming off the curve.
Okay.
But I don't see where L26 is on the drawing. That's where I'm going.
Yeah. If you zoom in extremely close, there is a little northward, I'm just going to say that, upward facing line for L26. It's very small due to the size.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Answers it. And it comes off like L14.
It does, just not at the same size. Right. Not the same size.
Right. Okay, good. I'm glad. Okay. So that answers that on C35. Let's see what else. Okay. Up in block 1, lot 4 and 14, right up in that area, toward, between that, actually it's in Reserve C. I think an inset would have served well there. I'm trying to figure out what they're trying to show. I think they're trying to tie the found iron pipe with the Calcomi mark on it to our survey, and that's fine, but it's like 1 point font, it's just really, really small. And there's one dimension in there, I'm not quite sure what it is, the 34 point, 50, 56.
86, right? 34.86. Yeah, that's tying down the 10-foot water line easement in
to the rod
area in the Reserve C.
Is it tied down to the rod that's found? Is that what it's doing?
No, I think it's actually delineating where it is. That was our question we had as staff, is we couldn't tell, because see how there's a leader line above that kind of rectangle and then below it?
Yeah.
So I believe that was the question we asked the staff. I mean, if I'm wrong on that, Myra, please correct me, but.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. Myra Hernandez with Johnson Carter. So initially when we submitted the plat, we showed the easement as a floating easement. And so staff asked us to further tie down the easement. So we tied it down from the closest boundary pin to the closest lot pin. So that's what we're intending to show there. I do agree we can add an inset to further enhance the measurements so that it's more visible and legible.
Okay, I think that'd be fine. Okay, the one last question I have is L30, which is block 2 between lots 5 and reserve B. That's where it's called out. You see it?
Block
And the
2.
Block 2, lots 5 and reserve B back to back.
Mhm.
Okay, L30 is called right there. And there's also a 27.17 dimension. And L30 in the table is 25.17. I wondered if that was a discrepancy.
So L30 is trying to dimension the entire line. The dimension that is shown as, give me one second, let me go back. Right, so L30 is from one of the pins that's shown on lot 5, and then to the closest pin of lot 1. And then the 2717 is the entire lot line of lot 5.
Okay.
You're saying the distance for the line that's shown in the table is correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
And anything else? All right, okay, great. I had a couple things. So in the affidavit of Neil Heckel on page upper left corner of page 1. So on this one, it looks like there's only one owner, right? Point Greatwood LLC.
That's correct.
Okay, but then in paragraph 2, it says owners have, but there aren't multiple owners on this one, unlike the next plat that we're going to look at. So I think that needs to say that owner has, and the same correction needs to get made in the 3rd paragraph. And then in the paragraphs 4, 5, and 6, where it says we, think those should be I, since there's only one owner, at least with respect to this plat.
7-2.
I had that all marked up, but I thought, no. It says we, Point Great.
It can,
So
well,
legal guys, so.
right, but it says, but if you're going to call them, if you're going to call that out as the owner singular, and it will make a difference on the next one where you've got an owner and then you've got other owners
Right.
that have ownership rights of the other reserves. So we ought to get it right.
Right.
So I would just say, we change the owners to owner and make the verb number singular.
Yeah, owner has, and dedicated by these presents does dedicate.
Yeah, and all the we's change to I's, etc. Okay,
You'd make a good attorney, Matt.
thanks. That's all I do is wordsmith. So you guys are bringing the heat on all these other things.
I had it, see?
Thankfully, we've got a great group. Okay, any other comments or discussion? All right, let me see if I can do this here, and you guys will jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to make a motion to approve this plat. Well, let me get it right off. Let me run it off a minute. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the final plat, subdivision plat for Greatwood Lake, Section 2B, with the following changes. 1, on the affidavit of Neil Heckel, change references to owners to owner, and change all of the verbs from the plural to the singular. Number 2, depicting L19 on the line table. Number 3, correcting correcting the arc lengths of the following items of the curve table: C10, C23, C28, and C32. Show the terminus of the line at,
30. That's 33,
I'm sorry.
not 32. That's right. Yeah, I had to look at it again.
Okay, 33. Show the terminus of the line where it's depicted on the plat at the convergence of C3, C16, and L9. Depict L26 clearly on the plat and add the designation of IP to the legend. And the other one, Dan, help me out on this one, is you wanted an insert added, and if you'll say where, please.
Basically an inset. It's kind of a blow up, a little circle, then zoom in on it, in the area of that found iron rod up there by the water line easement.
All right, and so adding an inset at the...
Yeah, they'll pull it out into some portion of the field of the drawing that's clear and available. You might argue we do it for L26 as well, since it can't be seen on the plat.
All right, well, let's do that, please, and do that for both. And then also, the only other one I had was the addition of RPLS to the signature block for Chris Calconi on page 1. And that was everything I got. If I missed anything, speak now. If not, is there a second?
Hey, Commissioner
And
Gallagher.
as far as the code references, oh, that might be what you were going to say, Shay.
That is exactly what I was about to get to. Yes. So for these proposed changes, we do need to cite to the portion of the development code to justify these changes. And I've noted that those are going to be pursuant to the development code, chapter 5 for the ETJ,
Okay.
development code, section 5-17, the development application handbook, section 5, graphic requirements for the final plat, and the design standards.
Thank you. And that section 5 will also covers the changes to the legend table, or do we need to call out again? Well, you've already called out Development Code Chapter 5, Article 2.
It
So,
does.
Yes, this should cover all of the proposed changes and revisions.
okay. Thank you for that very much.
Very welcome.
I had the guide up and I neglected to reference it. Okay. Did I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right. We've got a motion to approve the plat, seconded by Commissioner Hart. Any other discussion? All right, if you'll vote at this time. And just for the record, my Novus agenda is a little slow to come up on my iPad, so this means.
Yeah, that's what's happening to me too. And I don't have the voting block. I had it a while ago.
Yeah, I don't see it on mine.
Yeah, I'm missing it also.
We could do a roll call vote.
All right, let's do that because it looks like several people, including myself, are having, it's not our issues, but we're experiencing Novus agenda issues. All right, so we're going to do a roll call vote.
Yes, that's fine. I got a little message from Novus that it was like kind of down, so I figured it was going to happen.
Okay, so do I need to go down the line on that, or can we do it by show of hands?
Can you go down the line for me, please?
We can. Commissioner Hart,
Yay?
Commissioner Brown,
Yay.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yay.
Commissioner Landine,
Yay.
Commissioner Simeon,
Yay, aye.
and I am an aye as well. So it passes unanimously among the members present.
Thank you.
And I've got a big DuckDuckGo cannot find this page on my Novus agenda. All right. Well, good. Thanks, everyone. Moving on to item 5B, consideration and action of Greatwood Lake Section 3 final plat. And we get Laura for that?
Yes, yes, you do.
All right. Take it away.
So go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is another final plat. This is again for the last and final section of Greatwood Lake. So this is across the street, across Magnolia Trail from what you just looked at. The vicinity map shows Section 2B in red. And so now we're going to be looking at Section 3 in black. It has approximately 14 lots with 7 reserves, including those 5 directors reserves and 1 block. Again, access is the same as before off Magnolia Trail Lane. And you did approve the preliminary plat in September with a couple of conditions. Those conditions have all been taken care of for the final plat that's before you this evening. Next slide. So here again is the general land plan, and circled in red is Section 3. Next slide. This was the approved preliminary plat from September. Again, a couple of minor conditions to add more property info across Rabs Bayou there to the north to make sure you're getting the full 200 feet, and correct a couple of small abbreviation and spelling errors. Next slide. So this evening is the proposed final plat. They have added that property that's across Rabs Bayou to the north, as well as completed the abbreviation table. All other changes have been noted. However, there is one condition that staff or Commissioner K9 brought to staff's attention. There are 2 build lines noted in Reserve B where the lift station is proposed to go. There's a 10-foot and 25-foot. So we have discussed that with Myra at Jones and Carter, and that is going to be one of the conditions to remove that 10-foot building line to clarify that 25 is the build line there on that lift station. Next slide. Again, just like with Section 2B, P&Z has the option to approve with conditions, including the code reference, or disapprove with an explanation. Next slide. So staff does recommend approval of the final plat with the condition that the 10-foot build line is removed from Reserve B. And Myra is on the camera as well as staff to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Laura. Let's go through the line again. Commissioner Hart, anything on this one?
I have a question about there's a sanitary sewer easement on the east side. It goes from 15 to 25.
So the sanitary sewer easement does not go from 15 to 25. That is a build line is now in addition to that's 25 feet.
Oh,
but the
I see.
sanitary sewer easement remains 15.
Okay, so it's 15 with a 10-foot. Okay, I see it now. Thank you. And then up at the in Reserve A, north of the director's lots, there's a found 1/2 inch IP, and it gives us stationing. I don't know what that stationing would be. I mean, there's nothing stationed there. It says at 4 plus 93.96. I don't know that that's critical, but it's not. Can the engineer address that, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Myra, do you know? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Myra Hernandez at Jones and Carter again for the record. I do not have any further information on that. We picked it up from the survey that was done on this property, and so we included it on the plat.
Okay. All right, that was my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, one comment from me. Up on the curve table for C2, is the 1,330 foot radius correct, or does that need to be corrected?
I can double check on that for sure.
Yeah, I think it needs to be. That doesn't match up. And that's my only comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Watley?
I'm good, thank you.
Commissioner Landine?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Simeon?
Okay, again, on sheet 2, the surveyor's signature block, I'm thinking it should say his name and then RPLS. Probably do that. Let's see, lot number 5, there's a 10-foot sanitary sewer easement call out. And if you travel along into the cul-de-sac, in a short while, it's referred to as a 10-foot waterline easement. So one of those is probably incorrect.
So the sanitary sewer easement does stop at lot 6, or between lot 5 and lot 6. And then the water line easement starts between lot 5 and lot 6.
Okay.
So it turns from a sanitary sewer into a water line?
That's correct. So we stopped it at the lot line, and then we continued the water line easement. So it wraps around the cul-de-sac.
Okay. All right. Curves C1 and C8 down in the corner of the subdivision, very down there next to Magnolia Trail Lane, the southeast corner of the plat is, I see C1 is 25-foot radius and C8 is 30. Is the 73 square feet the area between those two?
That's correct.
And it's by this note, it's dedicated to the public for right-of-way.
That's correct.
Okay, I guess my question is, how did one of the, I could see C1 being on the border, but why was there a need for C8 on the inside? Just curious.
It was a county requirement, so we had to add that to the plat.
I'm sorry, for what?
It was a county requirement to have the radius be 30 instead of 25. But C1 is the property line, so we had to add that space and dedicate it to public right-of-way to meet the requirements.
Oh, okay, because it's on the curb, it's the curvature, gotcha, all right. The only other thing I saw was probably a rounding error on L8. If you add them up on the plan, it's 77, in the table it's 7701. I don't know if you want to bother with that, but that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Dan. All right, so I'm going to get a reputation for this, but I have a question about this affidavit as well. So on this one, there is an owner, which is Point Greatwood LLC, and then there are various other owners of the various reserves as well. So I get that. So when we get down to the affidavit to paragraph, starting with paragraph 4, so in paragraph 4, 5, 6, and 7, where it says, "We do hereby declare," is that the owner or the owners? Or both the owner and the owners?
So the we there would be whoever that statement applies to. I would assume it would apply in this case to Point Greatwood LLC for that 20 feet on either side of the center line of the
Okay.
lot.
And that's just what I want to check. To me, that would be if Point Greatwood is the person that's affirming that, but if it's the other owners as well, we need to be changed. But you're reading that, I think, the way that I do, so it looks like it's correct. All right. And that is all I had on that one as well. So let me try this one. Let me try this one and see how we do on this one. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the Greatwood Lake Section 3 final plat, subject to the following revisions, which I'll cite the authority for if I remember to here at the end of the discussion. The first one is to remove the 10-foot building line from the lift station Reserve B. The second one is to correct the curve table at C2. The third one is to correct the discrepancy between the plat and the table for L8. And the fourth one is to add the initials RPLS to the appropriate signature block on the plat. And those changes would be pursuant to the Development Application Handbook, Section 5, Graphic Requirements for Final Plat, and the Development Code, Chapter 5, Article 2, Section 5-17.
Yes, Commissioner Gallagher, that is correct. I would also cite to Development Code Chapter 5 for the ETJ.
Very good. Thank you for that addition, Shay. Lots of reserves. Got it. All right. And that was what I had. And is there a second?
I second.
I think that was Commissioner Brown. I wasn't looking at my screen. So we've got a motion and a second. I still don't have Novus agenda up on my iPad, so let's go ahead and do a roll call vote on this one as well, if you don't mind, please. Commissioner Hart.
I'll say aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Yay.
Commissioner Watley.
Aye.
Commissioner Landine.
Aye.
Commissioner Simeon.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well, so it passes unanimously among the members present. Thanks very much, commissioners, staff, Myra, for getting us through those two items. Let us move on now to item 6A, consideration of an action on a recommendation of a proposed conditional use permit for the establishment of a car wash facility, Quack Company, on approximately 0.86 acres located at the south corner of US Highway 90A and University Boulevard, to the mayor and members of City Council. Laura, what do you got?
Okay, let's go ahead and flip. There we go. So the car wash came before y'all in December, and they turned it around pretty quick with all those edits that you asked for. So again, just to refamiliarize, this is behind the Murphy's Express. That's at University and 98. And it'll be on that little triangular piece of property between the gas station and that drainage ditch. Next slide. The proposal is a gas station, excuse me, not a gas station. The proposal is a tunnel for a car wash. Will have about 114-foot wash tunnel with 11 vacuum stalls, access from the existing driveways that are shared with the Murphy's Express. And there is added vegetation for screening. There is no residential property nearby, and the CUP does appear to be in alignment with the comprehensive plan, land use plan based on location and the buffering that has been proposed. Next slide. So all of these exhibits that are in the presentation are the updated ones. They were also sent to you as part of the staff report. So this is the updated overall site plan. I believe here on the site plan, there was a legend error as well as some added screening. Next slide. Here on the circulation plan, there was a request just to make sure that the trip generations were correct because there were some different numbers, and this is correct based on the trip generation workbook. This was double checked by our engineer and traffic department. Next slide. The landscape plan, there was some added screening behind where the monument sign is going to be. That's near the entrance off of 90A there on the upper left-hand side where the monument sign is proposed to go. They added a row of shrubbery there, as well as removing the pictures of the trees that were on the Murphy's Express side. Commissioner Canine had suggested we remove those from the image because they were not being counted in the schedule. So those were taken off as well. And all of the numbers and symbols are do align based on what's in the image and what's in the chart. Next slide. Based on requests, there was some concern that maybe along that drainage ditch, there might need to be some more light or buffering. So we did ask them to provide a photometric plan. So this does provide light there along that rear property line where the drainage ditch is. This is also in addition to the row of hedges that you can see in the landscape plan. So we do have the photometric plan that now can be included with the CUP. Next slide. Elevations, there was a correction to the label in the chart here for one of the building materials. So that was completely corrected. And next slide. And again here too, that same exterior finish schedule, the abbreviations were updated to be completely accurate. Next slide. Again, a couple of photographs. This shows the public hearing sign that was posted for the public hearing we had in December. We still have not received any inquiries or phone calls about this site. Again, it is a vacant site. It's just grass right now. So the car wash does appear to be in compliance with the area, compatible with the area. Next slide. The future land use map does label this for neighborhood, commercial, and services. So typically taking care of automobiles is included in that category. So this would cover that area. This isn't included and compatible use with the future land use plan. Next slide. Just a little recap of the public hearing. It was held on December 8th, which there were no speakers present. And again, we haven't had any inquiries since the time of the last meeting. There were several edits made to the landscape plan to add vegetation as well as correction to legends and the inclusion of the photometric plan. All the requested updates were made and are included in the documents you have before you tonight. Next slide. So your consideration points for your consideration and action this evening. The site does have a history of auto-related businesses and it does neighbor an approved CUP for gas sales. There is no nearby residential property and this area, this use is supported by the future land use and comprehensive plan. It's nearby to similar intense uses, grocery shoppings, gas stations, and the commission may place further conditions on the CUP as you see fit to mitigate any negative impacts on the neighboring properties. Next slide. Therefore, staff does recommend approval of the recommendation of approval to the mayor and city council with the 5 following conditions shown on the screen. Those include compliance with all of the exhibits you've seen tonight, to require garage doors on the tunnel to be closed when not in operation. We would suggest limiting the size of vehicle to 2 axles and then prohibit outside storage of vehicles and outdoor speaker systems. I, as well as Joseph, are both on the call tonight to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks very much for the presentation, and let's go up the line again. Commissioner Hart?
Yes, I guess I didn't get that photometric plan. I don't know if anybody else did. That was my major question.
Okay.
Just to make sure it's in the package. That's okay. I trust staff. I just didn't get it. That was my question. And I agree with all the recommendations that staff made.
Okay.
Those are my only comments.
Yeah, and great point. I don't seem to have that in the materials either. And perhaps it.
Wasn't there?
All right. Commissioner Brown?
I like all the recommendations from staff. I went and watched. I have a concern, and this may not be the place to address it, but as the cars come out of that tunnel, they're hitting cross traffic on that road that feeds into Murphy right there. I went and sat at one of the quick quacks up on 2920 and watched. And as people come out of those tunnels, they're concerned with putting their phone down and doing a lot of other things. And I worry that could be a point where cars get hit. Could we make a recommendation of some kind of signage, watch for cross traffic, or maybe a yield sign for the cross traffic coming through there, be included on the site plan just to create a cautionary zone at that interchange?
Yes, you can require internal circulation signage. That is a public requirement.
I would like to see that. I would like to see something for the cars exiting the tunnel. And then I would like to see something on cross traffic as well, that just, a yield sign or something that spoke to cross traffic that would at least drive awareness at that interchange.
Okay.
Other than that, no comments. Nice job. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That's a great suggestion. As I'll talk about in a little bit, I missed the last meeting. I assume there was a robust discussion of the traffic flow here and the potential backup, and I'm going to ask some questions about that at the end. Commissioner Watley, anything from you?
Yes, thank you. Laura, I still have concerns about two things. First of all, the photometric. I was looking forward to that because it was one of the things I asked for, excuse me, based on the fact that I'm still concerned about the ledge by the bayou or by the ditch. I think it's a really big drop off. So I wanted to be sure we had some lighting there. So like Commissioner Hart said, we're going to have to trust that there is lighting to make sure that that's a safe area at night. And I'm hoping the photometric plan includes that because that's still one of my concerns. I mean, those shrubs are not.
Tia, if you could just navigate back to the photometric plan.
Yep, got it. One moment.
Okay.
In the meantime, while she's doing that, my other concern was, what have we done to, we talked about the exit point, that's not really an exit point, that runs into existing Murphy oil at the back part. And we talked about more than signage there, and I see there's only signage there still. So we weren't going to get more aggressive on that, put it up a rail or some type of stopping agent so people couldn't go into that area. If we're just doing a sign, no bumps, no anything else. So we talked about that.
Well, the conditions did not require it at the end of last meeting. There wasn't a condition to require it, although it was discussed. So you could put the requirement on there if you believe that's necessary.
I would like to hear other people's feedback on that. I still feel signs are not adequate to keep traffic from coming in that area. And I just, either people are going to exit that area, which is fine. I'm more concerned about people coming into that area with no place to go. There's no flow for incoming traffic, and that's a concern.
Perhaps a remote control gate on some sort?
Anything other, signage is just weak.
Hey, Laura, is this the one?
Yes, this is the photometrics plan, just to so you're aware. So here is the corner. So I just put an arrow out. So there's one light pole there. There's another light pole here. So both of these two light poles here show where that edge is. And as you can see, there's quite a bit. 7.6, 6.9 and 7.0 are the amount of foot candles that are happening there where the exact light is. So that will, it'll be brightly lit along that border, as well as the row of hedges.
I totally appreciate that. I just want to make sure there was something along that line. I appreciate that addition.
Yes.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's all I had. Those two items were my concerns.
And Suzanne, if we can stay with you just for a second, can you maybe just re-articulate what it is that you think that if you're going to suggest an added condition to this, mm-hmm. you call it out for us on the plan here and let us know.
Okay. The area that I'm talking about is the exit, or the opening, that the driveway that turns at the end into Murphy's Oil, the existing driveway.
Is that, and help me, so is that the one that appears that it's it looks like it's right next to where cars are going to go into the tunnel?
Yes.
It is.
That is
And that,
yes.
that is correct.
Okay. So as it stands, as it stands right now on this plan, is it the case that cars could queue up on these two lanes, go to the pay station, and then right before they're supposed to turn into the tunnel, the concern is that they could actually just, they could just go straight and go from there onto the Murphy property?
No, so the concern is that people would be entering from the Murphy Oil side and bypassing the pay station.
Okay, and they could just go right in and try to queue up with the cars that have gone through there. And
I'm not concerned about malicious people trying to go into the car wash per se. They may make a mistake and they have nowhere to go but forward, or backing up, causing traffic problems.
Okay, so the recommendation would be either kind of a fence or some kind of traffic barrier to prevent
something more aggressive than a stop sign.
So I think this was in place probably, commissioners, if you get in the pay lane, there's 9 cars behind you and you have a problem, it's a relief valve to get a car out, is what I think
Yes.
it is for. And we could probably do something like recommend, a gate arm they could have go up and down that, would prevent people from coming the other way, but would allow them to put it up to get a car out that can't go into the wash for whatever reason.
I think that's a great idea. It keeps people from coming in and causing any type of accident or a reason to back up or no flow.
My recollection of the conversation was that, this kind of a relief valve. And one of the things was in the event of a power failure. All these cars queued up and paid, and, they need to leave because the car wash is down. So they can leave by this outlet. Even the developer talked about worst case they put those, I forget what he calls them, tiger claws or whatever, the one way, otherwise you get your tires punctured. And he said that's extreme cases, but signage can be pretty effective. We're relying on it at the end of the tunnel earlier in our conversation here, and to have this mechanized or have a fence or have a gate, I don't know that. And then you have to have an operator come down and or have wires in the ground to sense the car, as it approaches the gate or gets close enough to the gate lifts. There are ways to do it, I'm sure, but I just don't. I don't know as we are in the operations business. If they're concerned about it, I think they put it in, and it might be a retrofit. But I don't know as we can actually effectively guide them in terms of what to do here.
We have the applicant with us tonight.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, he is on.
Oh, okay, Jesse.
Hey, can I just echo Commissioner Simeon's comments just then? I totally agree with that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, our conversation last time did include the city engineering folks as well that commented on the traffic flow and the adequateness of what was in place, or what was being proposed. So I just want to echo Commissioner Simeon's comments.
I would also note that the CUP requires minimum, and the applicant, if they do see a problem with this in the future, can add more than what is required. They just can't have less.
You mean less than what's approved in this CUP?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Why don't can we hear from the applicant at this point and maybe is that you, Mr. Ernest?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Joseph Ernest, Lone Star Builders. I'd like to just kind of shed some light on this. The idea here and the reason for that exit only is for non-compliant vehicles. So, for instance, the Planning Commission tonight decides to recommend approval with a 2-axle minimum and we have a 3-axle vehicle come through, we would need to allow them to exit there. If a vehicle's too tall, if they're towing a trailer, this happens. It happens rarely, but it does happen. And some sort of gate or something that requires additional labor, in our experience is overkill. The signage has worked. It hasn't been an issue for us, just for the record. However, if the commission felt more comfortable that we did something else or something more, I think the next thing I would recommend, if the commission wasn't comfortable with the signage, which we are comfortable with the signage and also the painted pavement, we would do both, would be a slightly raised concrete section there, where if a vehicle was coming in the wrong way, their vehicle would raise a bit. They would have to take a kind of a pulse of what's going on, right? Oh wait, what's happening? Oh, there's a sign, do not enter. But it would have to be slightly raised because some of these vehicles are very low to the ground, right? But something like that, I think, would be the next step. We've never needed it, but again, that would be my advice here.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Nothing so aggressive like a gate or clause, for heaven's sakes, but something that's just to make a driver aware of not to come in. And I think if we needed a second step, that would be great. Painting the signage, having signage and paint is a great idea. The raised bumps or something, that would be a great second step. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Yep. And the gate and the mechanized arm, it's so expensive. Please don't do that to us.
No, that wasn't in the books.
A lot of times it doesn't work and there's all kinds of maintenance issues. Please don't. Please.
No, I agree. Once people are aware they're entering an area they would probably be, they would back up and it would be fine. That's fine.
Yeah. And Commissioner Watley, to your point, if they did enter and they, there's actually a lot of space there. I think we could safely get them out if they came in the wrong way, just for safety's concern as well.
Okay, yeah. So pro tip, don't ever say you're not going to do something because it's too expensive. Say that, it creates logistical issues, that what you've done is satisfactory. Not that you want to cheap out in any way. And I know you don't.
Oh, man. I just assumed you're the benevolent government who's looking out for our money, right? So, no. I hear you. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I just want to, I'm sorry, Suzanne, did you have something else? Okay. All right. And again, I apologize for missing the last meeting. So if I could just ask you, I guess, Laura, if you could just kind of recap the steps that the city has taken to analyze this proposed business and the impact that it has on traffic, and including a look at the proposed traffic flow plan on the property itself.
So this does go through our standard DRC process before it ever gets to P&Z. So we have 3 weeks of review from a multitude of departments, as well as resubmittals to address those comments. Both our engineering department and our traffic safety departments in public works took a look at this, and they reviewed the circulation plan, the trip generation charts. I believe there was actually a full TIA done on this. So all of this was analyzed thoroughly by a couple of different departments, and there were no objections. And then after the concern at the last P&Z meeting, I did just double check with James as well as Guillermo and make sure that everything was accurate, and they did confirm that everything is accurate and approved to city standards.
Great, thank you for that recap. And also, just so that we're clear on this, a public hearing was held at the last meeting and no one signed up to speak, is that right?
Correct, there were no speakers present.
Okay, and notice was posted on the property, and no members of the general public have commented at all in response
Correct.
to the. Okay, thank you.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
At the last meeting, there was some confusion about the trip generation table, and I've studied it, and I think it speaks to the exiting the tunnel topic, and generally increased activity on the site or in the adjacent. Basically, if you look at C3 where the table's located, and this probably came out of the TIA. I
Yes.
think we have to. During weekday peak hour, and that would be probably the evening rush, there are 78 cars, 39 in and 39 out, that kind of make it a point to go there, whereas pass by, people that make the decision driving by 26 in, 26 out, that's during peak hour on a weekday. Now, the bottom one is probably the most important: proposed development trips added to the adjacent streets. You have 28, is that 26? 26, 13 and 13. And the peak hour, the peak period, the peak is an hour. So over the course of an hour, you've added 13 vehicles to the adjacent streets. So, and similarly on the weekend, I won't go through that table, but that's kind of what that table provides to us. And as much as it's the peak period and over the course of the day, of course, there's more vehicles. But the peak period is usually what you're concerned with, because off peak, it's less traffic. So there are less impacts. So I just wanted to offer that. And as far as when you think about that, 26 vehicles in during peak period, or 39 over the course of an hour, it's a pretty slow pace, to where, the congestion or the potential for collisions or stuff would not be terribly high. And I know you're sharing the driveway with the gas station, and that plays in. But anyway, I think the signs should be adequate at the end of that tunnel. So just wanted to elaborate since we had some confusion last time. I don't have any comments. I am thrilled that Quack was able to shoehorn this facility into this site. I can't imagine what it would have been used for otherwise, other than an expansion of Murphy Express. So kudos to y'all and good luck.
All right, thank you, Dan. Anyone like to make a motion?
I will. Do you want me to try?
I'll try, and you can correct. How about that? Or you can try. Go for it.
Okay.
Whatever you like.
Okay, let me see if this is going to work. I move approval of the conditional use permit for the establishment of Quack Car Wash located on 0.86 acres at the south corner of the intersection of Highway 90A and University in the general business B2 district, with the conditions of adding caution paint to the pavement at the southeast exit into Murphy's Oil gas station and signage added to the exit tunnel. Is that it?
And staff recommended conditions.
In addition to staff
recommended conditions.
that were contained in Laura's presentation.
Yes. Is that good?
I think that covers it. We've got a motion to approve the conditional use permit. I will second. Oh, go ahead. Dan's got the second on that. Any further discussion? All right. I'm assuming Novus is still down, so let's do a roll call vote on this one as well. Commissioner Hart?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Watley?
Aye.
Commissioner Landine?
Aye.
Commissioner Simeon?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. It passes unanimously among members present. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr. Ernest, for your comments. Very helpful. Well done. Item 7.
Thank you from Quack. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Item 7A, Planning and Zoning Commission liaison report. City Council meeting December 15, 2020. I believe that was me. And I believe that the only item on the council agenda pertinent to P&Z was the second consideration of the conditional use permit for the telecommunications tower at the rear of the property located at 19235 Dairy Ashford within the general business B2 zoning district. And that item was second consideration and it passed on the consent agenda with no further discussion. City Council meeting January 5th, 2021. Did that meeting occur? And if so, who was there?
Yeah, I covered that, Mr. Chairman, and the news out of that meeting that's relevant to all of us was that Councilwoman Jennifer Lane was appointed Mayor Pro Tem.
All right. Thank you, sir. 7B, City Staff Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, your next meeting will be Thursday, the 28th. And we have a rezoning scheduled, a public hearing for that. Some property from business office to proposed the business B2 on 59 near the Sugar Creek area. And we are still looking whether there will be any other items on the agenda. That's all we have.
All right, Sugar Creek area. I'm going to be looking at that one closely. So bring your A game on that, Doug. Okay. Anything else for the good of the group?
Motion to adjourn.
We've got a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. Thank you very much, everyone. Great work tonight. Happy New Year to all of you. It was good to see you. And we will see you on the 28th, if not before. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.